Hey guys, Wrong Gear here. I just wanted to take a moment and explain why I'm so excited about Firefall. I wanted to start by saying that I'm a huge MMO nerd. I've been playing MMOs since back around 95 with The Realm, which was released by Sierra at the time, if I recall. I later moved on to Ultima Online and EverQuest, where I stayed for several years. This is important because the reason I stayed with EQ for so long was because I felt free to explore wherever and whenever I felt like it. Sure, I could always get mauled to death by something much stronger than myself, but I was free to do it, and that's what I loved about it. Since then, I've hopped from MMO to MMO, never settling down for too long, really. I was basically looking for one that recreates the feeling EQ gave me. Now, obviously, EQ's still around and still going strong even after 13 years. The reason I ended up leaving was that due to time in the military, I was away from the game for so long that when I finally came back to it, I really didn't even recognize the game anymore, and I didn't blame the game for that because, I mean, it's not like I expected them to freeze the game while I was gone, but it just wasn't the same game, and so I moved on. The only other game that remotely recreated that feeling that EQ gave me was Star Wars Galaxies. But after the crazy updates where SOE basically tried to turn it into EQ with lightsabers, I left there as well. Firefall brings that feeling back almost entirely. The crazy thing is that they don't even have all the areas and content in yet. So if I'm already feeling like that now, granted they could add something later on in the beta that totally destroys that, but I mean, I don't think it's likely. When I play, I just feel pretty much limitless in where I can go. The game has no levels, and because it has no levels, even the freshest player can hold their own against nearly any foe. Naturally, some enemies are designed for larger groups of players, such as, mini bosses, regional bosses, things like that. But my point is that if you have a geared out player with little skill and a new player with crazy skills, the new player will be just as likely, if not more so, to be useful to the group. The game is a shooter, after all, first and foremost, and what this means is that if none of your friends are on one day and you just want to explore, go for it. Nothing's stopping you. You don't even have to feel like, you might get wrecked by a creature in the area because it's too high a level, because there are no levels. The next thing I'd like to mention is in regards to the lack of levels. Obviously, Firefall is not the first MMO to lack levels. Eve and the Secret World come to mind immediately, though I know that there are more, I just can't think of them off the top of my head. I'd like to preface this with saying that I love TSW, I pre-ordered, and I'm still subbed, don't plan to leave anytime soon, very happy with it. But the biggest gripe I have about the game is that there's no solid way to tell the quote-unquote level of a player. In TSW, since you don't level, your stats don't increase gradually on their own. What boosts your core stats are talismans that you equip. This allows you to swap talismans back and forth to suit the playstyle that you're trying to achieve. I do this fairly frequently myself as I switch between my dedicated healer build and my damage dealing solo build. Each piece of gear has a quality level or a QL, and players will often average their QL together and use that to determine the relative level of their character when finding groups. This helps a little, but the flaw in it is that it doesn't really tell you exactly what the player's skill bar will contain. He could be decked out in high QL gear, but if his skill setup blows, he's still going to be worthless. I've run into this issue several times myself. One prominent issue that comes to mind was one time when someone offered to tank in a group that I was in. He had QL7 gear, which was high for the area, and we immediately jumped to let them in because, it would make things a whole lot easier. Turns out that they had no taunts and weren't wearing gear that would boost their HP or help mitigate damage. They were trying to go entirely for damage dealing, which is not a tank's job. So naturally they were a shit tank. In Firefall, there still are no levels, but there are tiers for the battle frame that you're wearing. Now the battle frame is basically a suit that you wear, and that's what gives you your general class and skill sets. So for example, if I tell you I'm in a dragonfly battle frame, then that tells you that I'm a tier 2 medic and what type of heals to expect. If I tell you I'm in a biotech battle frame, then you know I'm a tier 1 and I only have access to the most basic heals. Now you still won't know everything about my character, and I could simply be a shit player, but it gives you a slightly better idea of what to expect. The final topic that I want to touch on, because I don't want this video to run too long, is that I truly feel that Red 5 is dedicated to running a successful beta so that their final product will be of the highest quality. I've participated in numerous betas, and while some made me believe in their dedication to quality, others left me feeling that the studio simply wanted to use the betas as a glorified demo. In the Firefall beta, however, I truly believe that Red 5 listens to our feedback, takes everything in, and honestly cares. They release patches regularly with not just random bug fixes, but also ideas and features that players have been suggesting for them to add. It's a true beta. Much of the game is very raw and sometimes very broken, but it's because Red 5 wants our feedback and suggestions on not just how to fix it, but how to make it better. This is extremely important, as I can't even begin to tell you how many betas I've participated in where players were constantly telling them, like, well, if you do this extremely common action, your PC will explode, or whatever, and the game would release and the issue would still very much be in the game, and it would wind up being a big deal post-launch. Now, I understand that in a beta for an MMO, they have an incredibly long list of bugs to look over, but when you have many players mentioning game-breaking bugs, you need to get hot on that shit pre-release. Anyways, that's about all of the time I'm going to take up of yours with this video. Lonram and I plan to make many more Firefall videos for you guys to check out, but I would love for you guys to leave a comment below. Just let us know what questions you have about the game and what features you'd like us to show you. For now, I'm Wrong Gear. Take it easy.